I'll read through our rules here, not rules, but our system. The South Dakota Property Rights and Local Control Alliance, SDPRLCA, thanks you for participating in our 2026 primary legislative candidate video survey. As a nonpartisan grassroots organization, SDPRLCA is dedicated to protecting private property rights and maintaining local control. Following the 2024 general election, where 65 of 66 South Dakota counties voted no on Referred Law 21, voters are eager to hear where the 2027 legislative class stands on these core issues. And so we give you a minute and a half to introduce yourself. And then we've got 5 questions of 2 minutes each, and then a closing statement for 2 minutes. And guess the 5 questions you've had in advance. And we're recording this and we'll put it on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and the website. So at this time, I'd like you to introduce yourself to the voters. Please tell us about your background, your connection to your district, and most importantly, what specific conviction or event led you to step forward and run for the South Dakota legislature.
Well, thank you. My name is Jana Hunt. I currently represent District 28A in the House, and I am running again to represent District 28A in the House. I don't have a primary candidate, but I do have a general campaign that I have a, a, uh, a candidate that I'm running against.
Some
I
opponent.
am, huh?
I said some opponent.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Opponent, yes. Um, I'm a rancher. I've lived my whole life in South Dakota. I also have a nursing degree and I nurse on the side. I kind of got a nursing degree so I could enjoy the ranching lifestyle for a few years. It was kind of hard to make it as a rancher, so you needed that supplemental income. That being said, I love South Dakota. I love the ranching lifestyle. I love the small, simple life that you can live out here, the hard work, integrity that the land naturally raises you up into. And the reason I got into politics was that way of life was being threatened when we started having um, eminent domain for private gain being threatened to our citizenry. And to me, that was a step way too far. And if I wanted myself to enjoy our rural way of life and my nieces and my nephews, and if I ever have children someday for them to enjoy this rural way of life, we couldn't have our property rights infringed upon that deeply and that aggressively. So that led me to get involved in politics. I'm 28 years old. This isn't something I want to do for a long time, but it is something that we need to fight for because the fight is here and right now. I'm a Christian. I would not be doing any of this if God hadn't convicted me to be involved. I also believe that the Constitution of our great nation is a amazing document, and I firmly want to support that the best I can. And one of my deepest issues that has become a more and more prevalent foundation for me is we as a culture and individual people keep giving our personal responsibility to the state, and we expect them to handle our issues better than we can. And we really need to individually start turning that around and taking that responsibility back on our shoulders because the government is not going to fix it. Anyways, that's
Thank
why
you,
I'm involved.
Jana. Amen to that. Um, so the first question is district specific. What do you identify as the primary property rights issue in your district, and what is your single most serious concern regarding it? Resource depletion, loss of local control, or unintended consequences?
Big picture, I would say it's corporate welfare in the name of economic development, and that encapsulates the mining issues that we're facing out with Pete Lean in the Black Hills, Summit Carbon Solutions with the CO2 pipelines, our subsidized wind turbines and solar energy panels. When we start subsidizing our economy with government projects that hinders our natural organic economy, that's a problem. Eggs really getting threatened. And an example of what I mean is like if we would build an AI data center in Perkins County, you are going to be taking egg land out of production. And that's not something that South Dakota can afford right now. So that's kind of big picture. We just really need to look at the unintended consequences of what it means for economic development in our state. Um, and I'm gonna say that our term for economic development really is corporate welfare at this point in the process. Specifically for 28A, I represent two reservations, and right now a hot topic this week in my district is the Black Hills and the mining issues that are going on there, and those are going to become bigger and bigger issues for us and the nine tribes throughout the state. And that's going to get pretty politically volatile, and that's something that I'm going to have to stay pretty up to date with because already my tribe and all nine tribes have filed a legal action against the mining out in the hills.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you, Jana. Um, so question two is an action plan. What specific legislative action or policy change would you champion to address this issue or these issues?
Um, well, I first want to call out Senator John Carley's Senate Bill 49 that he brought in 2025, I believe. That was to put a stop for eminent domain in the name of wind turbines and solar panels. I just think we need to kibosh any eminent domain that is used to subsidize government projects. Or private, like no private company should be doing this, and we shouldn't be subsidizing things. If it can stand on its own 2 feet, our citizens shouldn't be paying for it. Um, Another thing that's really important to me is I'm really struggling with the transparency and accountability in our judicial system, where the bar and the lawyers and the judges, they have a monopoly and a bias on justice throughout our state. And if we don't have a transparent and accountable judicial system, we're not going to get accountability with our property rights. If so, that needs to be worked on and seriously looked at. And going to evaluating the law is kind of scary and tough, but I think it's something that we need to start taking a little bit more seriously. Mostly, though, I think for myself, it's important to oppose the legislation that chips away at our rights, that takes away our personal responsibility, and that deceives us into complacency. So what that means is really evaluating what our departments are bringing to legislation at the state level, because the departments know how to trickily take away our rights without really making it threatening. So that's where I kind of mostly focus is really reading what the legislation is that the departments are building to bringing to make sure that it isn't threatening to our citizens.
All right, thank you, Jana. Question three is core components. Property rights involve the right to possess, control, exclude, enjoy, and dispose. How is the right to enjoy at risk from state mandates in your district, and how will you protect it?
Well, I think we go back to that corporate welfare. I think our state really needs to evaluate what is important to us as a culture. The South Dakota that I go down there to represent and I love and that I'm really willing to fight for is a South Dakota that has values of faith, hard work, honest living, small government, like that simple, slow life where you appreciate the things in your life and you're not working for greed, but you're working for the legacy of your family. Um, there's a huge push in our state for this economic development, and in my opinion, it's at the expense of the values that our state has historically been built on. Um, I don't think there's enough money in the world to sell out the wonderful way of life in South Dakota. So I guess in the name of money and progress, we're at risk of selling out our right to enjoy our daily life, and that's something that I'm gonna be fighting against with everything I got because I love my way of life, and there's not enough money to exchange for that way of life.
Thank you, Jana. Very good. Question four, eminent domain. Under what specific circumstances, if any, do you believe eminent domain should be used for projects owned by private corporations?
No one never.
No one never. Very good. That didn't take 2 minutes.
Nope, it don't need 2 minutes. It's a hard no.
Okay, good. Uh, local control. Describe a scenario in which local control is not enough protection.
Well, I think we just had a recent example of this, the Mod family, their conflict with the federal government and the Forest Service Agency. Um, Our state is severely lacking and it needs to step up and hold the federal government accountable. And while we take so much federal dollars and are so dependent on the federal government, we're never going to get to a state where we can hold them accountable until we start weaning ourselves off their dollars and then get to a place where we are holding them accountable to protect our citizens' individual rights. And that's something that the local government at the local level just doesn't have enough power or resources to do. But if you get everybody in the state to start moving that way, the independence that we should be working towards, I think is something that's going to become more and more important with all of these federal tax credits, the Forest Service overstepping, the USDA overstepping. It's an avenue that we really need to start evaluating statewide.
In closing, as we head toward the June 2nd primary, it's vital that voters know how to reach their potential representatives. For our final 2 minutes, please let the folks in District 28A know how they can contact you directly, where they can pick up a sign to show their support, how they can join your team as a volunteer, and how to donate.
Well, my cell phone's right there, 605-200-2057. My legislative email's pretty easy. I've got a Facebook, Jana Hunt for SD, or for South Dakota, and Instagram, Jana Hunt for SD, using the number 4 instead of FOR. Um, just give me a call or send me a text and I'll try to get back to you the quickest, easiest way. I don't have great cell service, but I'll get back to you eventually.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight, Jana.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for doing this. It's get us all educated and keep the communication going.